We know a new world is needed. We see it, we feel it, we live it, often with fear. That new world begins with us. I'm Mitra Manesh. This is The Attentionist, where we build a path from fear to choice, and you are welcome to join us.
Mitra, I think today is story time. I would love for our listeners to hear the origin story from you.
Sure, that's what sets the book. Let's start from the beginning. So the story starts with there was everything, capital E, everything, that was satisfied, complete, and in existence. And somehow it got interested and curious about unfolding itself. We don't know how, we don't know why, we know that it did happen. And to unfold itself, it started creating different things beside itself. So many things were created, and one of those creations were little everythings that were exactly like the everything, but just smaller. So now we have, it's a bit confusing, everything, but now that it's unfolding itself, it's called big everything, creating little everythings. There were a lot of other beings and things that were created, but in our story, we just refer to some of it. And these little everythings, which were very much like the big everything, except in a smaller scale, started creating just like, because they were creators, they were starting many, many amazing, beautiful things. They started creating universes, multiverses, megaverses, things that were just amazingly beautiful. And since these little everythings were new to creation, big everything gave them a guide. We call it the blueprint in this story. Blueprint was not anything like rigid or difficult to follow. It was basically a gentle format to make sure that what they created was creation, was original, and they created with joy, and also what they created, they shared. So it was about unity, creation, and joy. So little everythings were creating happily and joyfully and sharing generously, and everything was really, really happening in a wonderful way. And then some anomaly happened, something unusual, unprecedented happened. One of these little everythings started to create under their own light, on their own accord. They didn't follow the blueprint, which usually makes it much easier to create. Just imagine if they told us, go and create, but make sure this is considered. If I had no consideration, it's like driving. I could go 200 miles an hour, no problem. Nobody said that there is a speed limit. So this little something was born. What was a something? Something was a little everything that did not create under the light of the big everything and didn't have to share anything, didn't have to be joyful, didn't have to have an original creation. It could just do whatever it wanted to. So now we have big everything, little everythings, and a one something. Very interesting. Do you have any questions before I go on?
Question. If little everythings came from big everything and they got a blueprint to create, how their creations were different from each other?
Good question. So I know you're an artist. You had training for that, right?
Yes.
Okay. All those people that had training at the same time as you, are you all the same kind of artist? Are you creating
No.
exactly the same art?
No.
How
Of course
come?
not.
Didn't you go to the same training?
Yes, but we all have our unique way of being and perspective.
That's exactly. You studied the same thing. You had the same teacher probably. You had same homework and home practice and artwork. However, every single one of you creates differently. And that's exactly how. And on the big everything question, do you have any siblings?
Yes.
Okay. So are they exactly like you?
No way. I love them, but no, we're very
Okay.
different.
Did they not come from the same mother
They
or
do. Yes, in
father?
this case. Yeah.
Okay. So you see, it's the same question, even though our origin, where we came from, is the same, even though we may be in a general sense following the same principle, it doesn't mean that our uniqueness and our ability to create goes away, because that blueprint was not a rigid blueprint. It is not a like, thou shalt do this. It's like, just consider unity, consider originality of creation, and make sure that you have fun and you're enjoying it. So it was just a very general, like, setting the tone for creation. And that's why it was so very encouraging for everything to just create what they wanted to create. It wasn't stopping them to be unique or expressive. It wasn't limiting. It just gave them a point of reference so that they don't forget that they are doing this to have fun, to have joy, and also to make sure that everybody benefits from their creation. So something started creating on its own. And of course, when you don't have to consider anything, things happen faster, and they really liked what was happening. So as these other little everythings are watching the something, they're sort of getting curious and they're thinking, that looks really interesting to be independent and separated and doing these things. So they go to big everything and say, can we do the same? We don't know how that happened, but can we also be like something and create as we wish? And big everything said, sure, go ahead. If you wish, you have the choice to go ahead and create either under the blueprint, under the light of all of us, or go and create on your own. So this point of a story is the point of creation of choice. So now little everythings are creators, and they also have choice. So choice was created along with the ability and the power of creation. Any questions?
I love it that actually I didn't realize they had no choice before. They were creators by nature, let's say.
Exactly.
And now the way they create, they can choose.
So many of little everythings decided to join the something, and there were many somethings, and they started creating in separation on their own as they wished, and that was fine. But something happened that was very interesting. First of all, they gave birth to a lot of children. And these children, even though when they were born, they all came as little everythings, they were taught and conditioned by some things to be separated. And the problem with separation is that we have to be now careful. If I'm separated from you, I need to make sure I'm safe. I need to make sure that you're not attacking me. I'm not attacking you. Am I defending if you're attacking me? There's a lot of things that are born as soon as we feel separated. And these experiences didn't exist in what we call in the story the land of unity, when all the little everythings were just creating together and, playing together and sharing with each other. So anyways, these some things gave birth to children who were converted into being a something, and their population grew and their problems started to surface. And they started feeling very, very separated from each other. They felt separated from the source, from big everything, because they were not creating under the light of big everything, under the blueprint. And sometimes they even felt separated from themselves because they were just so in their fear land, and fear was basically created, because now if I'm not same as you, I have to be really on the watch out. I want to make sure that I'm safe. And so safety, fear, separation, comparison, jealousy, competition.
It's like as you are describing today's world. I remember thinking that the very first time I heard the story is like, that's
Yes.
us.
Yes. It is us. It is us. And that's exactly what happened. So the separation, the comparison, then the fighting, a lot of issues came when we went our own separate ways. And then to have some kind of structure for this land of separation, there was a need for some kind of security, because in fear, we need security. It's really interesting. Only in fear, I need security. Like, I don't need security. Imagine, like, we're all sitting where we feel safe amongst friends, when we feel one with them. I don't need security and safety there. I need security and safety where I feel there is fear, there's separation, there is attacking, there needs to be defending. So institutions were born, and institutions to make sure safety is there. The problem became later that the institutions started caring more about their own existence rather than the safety of its members. Tell me, you have a question.
Yes, it's like institutions are a new being of their own. Like,
Yes.
it sounds like the little somethings created institutions to get organized.
Yes.
But institutions kind of gain a life of their own and
Exactly. Yes.
relate to each other in another level, like independently from the something.
Yes, that's a very insightful observation. Yes, institutions became another creation, creation in fear, of course, but creation on their own, and they have, and they still do, the life of their own. So their existence is very different than the existence of some things.
Even the some things that are managing or inside or being pieces of this institution
Yes.
are just that, like small pieces of it, but they are totally interchangeable. Like, the institution itself is like this new being, like as a giant is born and it's another way of life, another existence.
That's right. It had an existence on its own. Yes, exactly. It became really, really difficult because when there was no light of unity, when that was dim, then some things started creating in fear, and creation actually became very muddied. Creation turned into copying, because now the question of, do I fit in? Am I better than you? Are you better than me? So I looked around and I thought, what are you doing? And I wanted to copy you. So some things started copying each other. You know, copying and creation are completely opposite each other. Creation is when I give birth to something new. Copying is like I see what you're doing and do my best or try to imitate you. So creation turned into copying. Oneness turned into fear of sameness. Are you like me? Are you exactly like me? Because if you're not, then I need to protect myself from you. So unity was not about lack of diversity. Unity just meant we are all part of the same body of creation, but we can be different. Just think about our body, like body of the human being, which is a great example of the body of creation. Fingers don't look like my eyes. My hair doesn't look like my knee. They're very, very different and extremely diverse in their work, in their look, in their function, in their location. However, they are really collaborating with each other. They're very aligned. And when they're not, we call it illness and sickness. So in a healthy body, there is alignment. All parts, different parts, diverse parts of the body are working in collaboration and harmoniously to allow this body to function. So it was the same. Little everythings, as different as they were really allowing the body of creation, the body of life, to operate in a very harmonious way. But when some things felt separated, then that collaboration and harmony and alignment was not there anymore. So let me stop, first of all, to our Attentionist friends. I know it's a simple but a little bit complicated story, but it's a very necessary story to set up the book and to understand why we human beings are suffering. Because if you haven't figured out by now, I'm sure you will soon, that the some things and little everythings, that's the story of human beings on earth. That's what I'm referring to, and that's what we're talking about. But let me stop and see if Carlota has any questions for me.
I'm sure that our listeners are wondering, and where big everything was while all this mess in the world of somethings was happening, because some things all came from little everythings in a way from himself. So I'm wondering where he was, why he was not maybe helping them out. I really was sad when you said the light was dim, why he was not helping them light their creation again in the way that was engaging and unifying and unique.
It's a question that a lot of us human beings ask. How come big everything did not interfere? But remember, Carlota, big everything gives the choice to little everythings. And when the choice is given, it can't be taken away because it no longer will be a choice. So if I tell you, would you like to come in the morning or in the afternoon? And then turn around and say, but you have to come in the morning, then that's not a choice. Choice is that I give you options, which it means that there needs to be more than one option, and you have the authority to take it or not take it. So if big everything, who had promised little everythings to give them the choice, if they had taken that choice away, then that would be breaking the promise and the gift of choice and free will. And as you know, big everything does not break their promise. We may, but big everything stayed with their promise because that was something that little everythings wanted. And that was the, as I said, moment of choice, which really means free will, the creation of choice and free will. So it didn't, because that would have been against the promise and the gift that big everything had offered little everythings.
And Mitra, while you say that, I'm wondering, because you said, like, the story goes that little somethings had babies and kids and raised generations after generation. Is there a possibility that some things actually forgot that they had another choice?
Yes, that's exactly what happened, actually. Some things forgot, not because big everything was not there anymore. They forgot because they had gone too far away from their source, from their origin. And that's actually one of the reasons I'm telling this story. It's a gentle, playful reminder that we still have that choice. At any given moment, on every breath, we have that choice. And by the way, big everything wasn't that inactive, because I like to say the virus of separation was taking over the whole land of unity. It was affecting other beings there. And big everything said to the little everythings, you know, this is really getting difficult. You can make another choice. You can come back to being little everythings, or you can be some things, but go on your own and basically not contaminate the other beings and other creators in the land of unity. One of the other beings in the land of unity was what I call, again, playfully in this story, as darlings. Darlings were basically the ones that were there to watch this beautiful theater of creation when little everythings were creating. So it's almost like when you go to see a basketball game. You may not be a basketball player, but you sit there and you get excited by watching the players play the game. So darlings were spectators, basically witnessing, enjoying, watching the beautiful play and theater of creation. So darlings play a very important role in this story, even though their job is to just watch. They're not creators. They're not participant in the story and in the theater of creation, but they play a role because they've been watching Little Everythings when they were creators. They remember that because they still are in the land of unity. They remember how wonderful it was, wonderful, full of wonder, to watch Little Everythings play and have fun and share. It was just a beautiful, fun game to watch. So they haven't forgotten, and they went to see. You asked, did Big Everything do anything? Big Everything, first of all, said, like, please don't contaminate other beings. And also when Darling saw that, and they were sad. They were watching their friends to leave and suffer and not play the game the way they were playing. So they would go to Big Everything and say, can we help? And Big Everything says, I have promised choice and free will. You can't compromise that. But if some things decide to come back and remember that they are little everything and come back to their unity and come back to their happy creation, then yes, you can help them, but you cannot make a choice for them. You cannot make a decision for them because that will compromise the free will. So the role in the story of darlings is very important, especially after some things, got really separated. And the role is to remind some things and to help some things to go back to being little everything only if they wish to do so.
Mitra, is it possible that we go from different stages? Because you already said that we actually are born like little everythings. We turn into some things. Now that you introduce the darlings, it sounds as if when people lose a very loving person, somebody very close, and they have these stories of signs of this person that was loved energetically around them, what in some cultures are called angels or spirits. Darling sounds like a little bit of that. And I'm wondering if this is something that us as energetic beings, we go through, like that we can go from everything to some things and maybe at one point into darlings. And darlings, you said that they only observe, but can they actually in one point become part of the mess, like go down and play and create?
Well, darlings can't change what they're supposed to be. They can't change that. But what happens is when we lose somebody, as you called it, they turn into energetic beings when their body goes. Is it possible? Because, by the way, let me say that darlings are energetic beings. They're not they don't have physicality. Because remember, they belong to the land of unity. So they do not have physicality. And what is possible that darlings may come through a physical being, like cats and dogs and people that we have lost, they communicate through them, but they are not those beings. And that's very important to know, because when we stayed in the land of separation and left the land of unity, when we became and behaved as some things, we became very dense. So if you think about density, it's really about consciousness. It's the best way to understand consciousness. The denser we are, the less conscious we are. And the lighter we are, the more conscious we are. By that, it doesn't mean the weight of our body. It doesn't mean like whether we weigh this much or we weigh that much. We're really talking about our sense of ourselves. We're talking about how close or how far we are from fear and love. So closer to love, we're lighter. Closer to fear, we're denser. So it's not about physical weight. It's about how close or far we are from love, basically.
I think every listener that listens that can relate, because now
Yes.
you were saying it and I just came to my mind the moments that I've been in love, it feels like you're not touching the ground. This magic, very high connected, loving moments. And instead, when you are in total fear, even if you think it's a loving relation, but if you are total fear, you feel so heavy, so heavy. So I'm sure that all of our listeners related directly to.
Yes. Yes, it's a very interesting way of looking at it. I mean, and it's not a set thing, by the way. If our attentionist friends, if you're listening to me, just go to a time or the moment even that you felt light and you felt connected. Normally, those are the times that we are like people talk about when they were in love. So when I am in love, you see how like I don't care about a lot of things. I don't argue with people. I don't judge people. I feel like, that's fine. Whatever is okay. It's because I am so close to the love energy. It could be through one person, the person that I'm in love with, or when you have children, some people feel that way when they hold this being, whether it's theirs or somebody else's, and they feel the energy of love. And that's when you feel light. That's what we're talking about when I'm talking about density or lightness, consciousness or lack of conscious light or lack of light. So it's a very interesting way of looking at our own story when we hear this playful story of how do I connect to darlings? People have different names for it and different relationships with it. They may call it energy. They may call it, my loved one. A lot of people say like, since my parents died, I've been this and that. It doesn't matter. That's symbolic because maybe the only way I can connect with the energetic world, with the darlings, is through my beloved parent. And that's okay. Or someone that I lost or someone that I love. That's all right. There's no restriction and no judgment about that. It doesn't matter how you get there as long as you connect to that invisible world. And, the whole story starts with Yeki Bud, Yeki Nabud of our, meaning the world of visible and the world of invisible.
Mitra, now that I'm thinking that we end the story in this not so nice moment where some things were lost, institutions have a life of their own, and it reflected the moment where we are as human beings. And I wonder if our listeners are like, okay, that doesn't sound that hope would be like a perspective that can be offered from the attentionism. And I'm sure that we're not left in this mess, that we have choice, in fact.
Exactly. I think you just answered your own question. It's exactly that, is really remembering that we do have a choice and that is our savior. Because when I'm stuck in the fear land, in that moment, I believe that there's nothing I can do. But when we read the story, when we tell the story, when we share the story, we are reminding ourselves and people around us that we do have a choice. At any moment, on every breath and every word that I utter, I can stop and ask myself, do I want to go with energy of fear or do I want to choose better? Because I have a choice. So when people say, I just can't help myself, fill in the blank, that is actually an inaccurate statement. We can always help ourselves and be different. Let's say every time you and I saw each other, we went at each other and we had a fight. Every time, for whatever reasons. You don't like my hair. I don't like yours. But it's like, and as soon as I want to go at you or you want to go at me, you stop, take a breath, and you think, do I want to continue this game? Do I want to go there? Or is there another choice? And as you know, we provide 3 different questions that we can do, which is another episode. But yes, this is just, I know.
Thinking this is another episode. Next one, promise.
Next one. But what we're saying here is we need to tell the story of how it happened and how we got there so that this is not a period, this is a comma, so that we remember we have a choice. Remember when big everything allowed the little everythings to come to their own land and their own creation and create independently and in separation, big everything also provided another choice. You can always come back to the land of unity and create under the same light as everybody else. So that choice has never been taken away. The same way the choice of creating in separation and fear has not been taken away. These two truths coexist. My question, your question, as little everything that has been trained to become a something is at any given moment, do I want to go back to the land of unity and create under the same light as everybody else? Or do I want to create under my own light and with my own decisions and my own standards? That offering, that gift, those choices have never been taken away. However, I may have practiced more this one, so I think that's the only choice I have, meaning to create in fear and in separation. But the other choice has always been there and will always be there.
I think you said one thing that struck me the most is that the two options coexist. There is this understanding that you are somewhere and you have to work your way through to get to this place of better choice, of like little everything. But it's so empowering and powerful to think that that is something we can decide at every breath, that actually they are coexisting and we're choosing one or the other at every given moment. So it's at the hand reach of.
Yes, it is very powerful. And also, it's a great reminder. The whole idea of telling the story, beside entertainment, was to be a reminder that any given time, and even if I just slightly stop and say, I don't know how that looks like. I haven't done it recently, but I wonder, that wondering is a beautiful way to start. I wonder if I wanted to interact with Carlota differently, how would it be? If I thought that I am back in the land of unity and we are all co-creators, we're creating for joy and for the beautiful idea of sharing, how would I interact with you differently?
And that brings to my mind this sentence that you say very often, like the way we do one thing is the way we do everything.
Yes.
It's like at every given breath, the way I'm going to drink this tea or call this friend or drive my car is a choice of being closer to love and big everything or being far. So
Yes.
yeah, it's like these little things like our listeners can start with.
Yes. Very little. I remember my grandmother, 3 things I remember vividly. One was that every time that she wanted to drink any liquid or any water, she would stop and as if like she was connecting to another being. And now we know, I mean, this was like, I don't know, 60 years ago I'm talking about. Now we know that water holds energy and knows energy and has energy, all of those things that we don't know. We didn't know that. I'm sure my grandmother didn't know that. But she would stop and was almost like a respect exchange, very respectful exchange that she had with the water. Or the other thing I remember, every time we went out and came back home, she would say hello to our home. And we used to laugh as kids because we thought like, there's nobody home. Who are you saying hello? He says like, you respect the home. Hello, home. And we would giggle and laugh and make fun of my grandma. But these are like old wisdom of acknowledging that I can start here. I can respect the water that is satisfying my thirst. I'm connecting to other elements in life. Or now that they hug the trees, like acknowledging, and, they used to make fun of it, like, they're tree huggers, ha, 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 ha. But it's really acknowledging that there is consciousness, there is beingness, there is life in this tree. And when I connect with it, I connect to something beyond me and bigger than me. So these little things that may sound like not even important in life allow us to really remember that one, there are forces and energies beyond what we see, and we have a choice. I can show up differently in any given moment on every single breath. So, good place to stop our story, huh?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Thank you for your curiosity. We're going to continue our talk, but I think this main story, setup story, is a great place to start because the rest of the book goes from here and what happens from this moment onwards.
Thank you, Mitra.
Thank you. The new world doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives one episode at a time. Pick one word, one new way of being from this episode and put it into action. And that's how the new world gets built. Until next time, pay attention to your precious attention.